Hello, and welcome to today's Up to Thrive Manage Your Mind Mindful Moment.
Welcome to Up to Thrive, your go-to podcast for women's wellness in midlife, designed to educate, support, and inspire you to live your very best life. And now your host, Dr. Karina Sims.
On Easter weekend, many Aussies go camping for the long Easter weekend. We go with a large group of families every year, and we camp along the riverbank. This year, we were camped at the bottom of this little hill, and the kids had set up a little jump at the base of the hill. On Easter Sunday, the adults were all sitting around the campfire, having a chat and just watching the kids enjoying the day, when one of the adults had an idea that we should all give the bike jump a go. And before I knew it, they all started one by one having a go at the bike jump. Now, I am one of the oldest. I'm the oldest of the group by more than 10 years for the women. And I wasn't totally sure that I should be getting on a bike and attempting to hurl my body down a hill and over a bike jump at 54 years old. I was having a few flashbacks of a wakeboarding incident I had a couple of years ago. So I had only ever been wakeboarding maybe once before, and I thought that I would give it another go. So I was on the wakeboard for a little while, getting a little bit bored going in a straight line. And I decided that maybe I would give a 180 a go. So turning my board from, the left foot facing forward to the right foot facing forward. And as I was turning my board, if you've been wakeboarding, you probably can guess exactly what happened. The edge of my board caught the water and I hit very, very hard face first into the water. Did a very hard face plant. And as I was coming up for air from under the water, I was actually taking some cervical spine inventory if whether or not I had actually damaged my cervical spine, were my hands and my feet, my fingers and my toes all working properly? And could I move my head? Because it was a pretty hard hit. In fact, my teenage son, who was in the boat, said that it was one of the hardest stacks that he'd ever seen. Oh, very impressive. But I then and there decided my wakeboarding days are probably over. In my early 50s, probably wasn't a time to start trying to perfect wakeboarding, right? Or take up wakeboarding. So I was having to think, doing a bit of a risk assessment. What was the worst that could happen? Could I actually make it up the hill on the bike to come back down? I was thinking back to those days, when you're on one of those fixed gear bikes and going up a hill was really hard. And I hadn't done that for many years. I ride a road bike, which is pretty easy. I can just put it in the lowest gear possible and spin up a hill. But could I actually make it up the hill? Could I land it without stacking it after coming off of the jump? So in my head, I was going through the motions. I was seeing that most of the others were actually stopping their pedaling halfway down. So they weren't getting the momentum that they needed. And then they also weren't pulling back on the handlebars as they were hitting the jump to try to get a little bit of air under their tires. And I could remember that feeling really well, that feeling of weight as you pull back on the handlebars just to get a bit of air as you hit the bike ramp. Because I do have a little experience on a BMX bike. When I was 10, I got Blue Thunder. It was a BMX bike. I got it for Christmas, probably the best Christmas present I've ever gotten, in front of the tree on Christmas morning. It had blue handle grips and it had a blue pad between the handle grips on the handlebars and one in front of the seat. The seat was blue and it said Blue Thunder on the pad in front of the seat. Don't know exactly what that's called, but yeah, she had a name. And I was the only girl in my neighborhood with a BMX bike, and certainly the only girl that was lining up to give our little homemade jumps a go on my bike. So I was really curious. Is this something I could actually still do? What if I did stack it? what would happen? Now, I've been lifting weights very consistently for the last couple of years or so. So I'm feeling really strong. I'm feeling fit and I'm feeling capable. I haven't had a DEXA scan. So I haven't had a scan to look for osteoporosis or thin bones. But running through the risk factors in my mind, I was pretty confident that I'm pretty low risk. But was I still really going to give it a go? As I sat there thinking, I was ready to just kind of politely decline. I didn't think that anyone was really going to give me any pressure, really, because they all think I'm ancient, I think. I would imagine. I don't know. And as I was being asked if I was going to give it a go, and I started to say how, it probably wasn't a good idea, and my husband was fully on my side. No, I don't think it's a good idea, he was saying. Now, he is 5 years younger than I am, and he was the first one on the bike that day. But he really should know better after all these years of marriage that telling me I shouldn't do something often results in the exact opposite. Can't help it. He has been known to use that against me, use the whole reverse psychology trick at times. But I can see this time, this wasn't one of those times. He was actually saying he didn't think that it was a very good idea. And as he was saying that, I decided I wasn't at the I'm too old for this stage of life yet. So when my nephew was saying, Auntie Karina, it's your turn, I said, okay. I took the handlebars, I jumped on the bike, and I easily rode it up the hill. And as I was riding, I was thinking, wow, that was really easy. That was so much easier than I thought it would be. I was actually really, really surprised. So, okay, now I got to go back down. And I was reminding myself, I'm going to have to, get a bit of momentum going down the hill so I can get a little bit of air going over the jump. And then without hesitation, I just took off. Now, if you watch the video footage of this, it's pretty funny. And I have put it on social media because I thought it made a really good reel. Because you can hear the exact moment that my husband realizes that it's me on the bike. You hear him say, oh, and he's a little confused, thinking that it should have been me. And as he told me later, he was thinking, that must be one of the kids because I was really pushing those pedals. And I was even stirring up a little bit of dust and my tires were getting a little bit squirrely as I was really trying to get that momentum coming down the hill. And then as I got close enough for him to clearly see it was me, and just before I hit the jump, you hear it. Oh, shit, he says, just before I hit the jump. And as I hit the jump, I pulled back on the handlebars just like I did when I was 10 years old. And both of my tires got a little air just before I nailed the landing. And if you enlarge the video, all you see are a face full of teeth. The biggest smile as I realize what I just did. And then you hear the campsite erupting in cheers and what's probably relief laughter. Relieved that I actually was still standing. And the kids in particular couldn't believe it. For about 5 minutes, I was a total legend in their eyes. And I could see I was probably a little bit of a legend in my husband's eyes too, as he said, well done, and gave me a quick little hug and told me that he couldn't believe that that was me, that he had thought really that was one of the kids. So here I am, 54 years old, feeling strong and confident enough to do something different, something physical, something I wasn't totally sure that I could even do. And 2 to 3 years ago, in the thick of perimenopause, I'm not sure how I would have gone. In fact, my husband remarked on how much stronger I am now than I used to be, and that he didn't think that I could have done it previously. I don't know about that because I'm a bit of a goer. But I probably would not have done it as strongly and as confidently as I did this time. What I do know is I am very happy to be here right now at this age, at this stage of my life, and feeling this way. It is the direct result of consistently working my body 2 to 3 days a week for 45 minutes to an hour in the gym, lifting weights, progressively getting stronger, progressively challenging all of my muscles, and at the same time really focusing on my diet, getting 3 high-protein meals a day and often a high-protein snack to really give my muscles all those beautiful amino acids they need to keep getting stronger, keep building, keep healthy and strong. I prioritized, I protect my sleep, I manage my stress levels, and I'm telling this story today because I want as many women as possible to feel as strong and as confident and healthy as I feel today. It honestly wasn't that hard making those shifts. Just little shifts is all that it took. If I can do it, I know that you can too. You may not want to do bike jumps, but you may like to have more energy. You may like to open your own jars, do your own heavy lifting, run around with and keep up with your grandchildren that you have now or that you're going to have possibly in the future. Travel and have the strength and endurance to walk for days, do a bike tour, or even something else completely unexpected. Bungee jump out of a plane. I don't know. I'm sure that's on my list yet to come. If you aren't there already, for many of you, these things are well and truly available to you. And I hope that you will take this as an encouragement, the encouragement that you need to make the changes that you need to make to be as confident and strong as I feel today. I hope you've enjoyed this Manage Your Mind mindful moment. And if you have, and you can think of someone else who might enjoy it, please pass it on. And don't forget to rate and review the podcast to make it more visible to those who might get something out of it too. Have a great week, everyone. And until then, I hope you opt to thrive.
The Opt to Thrive podcast is designed for information purposes only and is not engaged in the giving of medical advice. The information provided on the podcast should not be used for diagnosing or treating a health problem or disease. In no way should the information provided by Opt to Thrive be considered medical advice, and at all times the advice of a medical professional should supersede recommendations from Opt to Thrive. If you have or suspect you may have a health problem, you should consult your healthcare provider. The views expressed in this podcast are purely that of Dr. Sims and do not in any way reflect those of the institutions she contracts her medical services to.
Thank you for listening to Opt to Thrive. If you've enjoyed listening, please rate and share the podcast. You can visit our website at opttothrive.com and leave a comment for any subjects you would like to hear more about.